Welcome, Elphie.
Thanks, Ivan.
Awesome. So yeah, we caught up for a chat last week. We had a really awesome conversation, just talking about different things and just catching up as well. And we thought, hey, why not share this? It was really interesting. Like there's almost like two different perspectives of the same thing, and we thought, hey, why not, get this out there and it's also aligned with our purpose in the future as well. So we thought, here we are, and so welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, it was great to sort of chat with you last week and get a feel into what it felt to have a conversation again. I remember one of my favorite interviews was with you in that park that day when you were doing that masculine summit. You had like 50 speakers. Yeah, you coordinated such an amazing event, and it's like, well, why don't we just start putting some of these great conversations out there? There's stuff that we could all learn from each other, and yeah, just put some content out there and talk about a few things. So we're going to cover these crazy times that we're in right now, and a bit on resolving conflict, and some of the stuff we're doing health wise as well. So yes, looking forward to the conversation. And like you're saying there, where there's two different perspectives that we have. It's kind of like a yin and yang kind of thing, where you've got this spiritual aspect with a practical implementation, and my focus is on the practical, but with a spiritual connotation and a focus on fulfillment and stuff through that practical. So yeah, love it. Let's go into it, man.
Definitely. And I love it to be like more of a community as well, so people can like leave questions and comments. Because for me, I'm always learning, and I don't I love, like, because there's a lot of people out there that know a lot of things about a lot of things, and I love it to be like a growing community where we can help each other as well, exploring new fields, new ways of thinking and being. So
yeah, if
I'm really
anyone
excited.
commenting and watching wants to like add some topics and want to ask us stuff, then happy to do that and bring as much of our gift that we can for you guys. So love to hear from you all. So
Cool.
yeah, it's great.
So yeah, let's start. So these are crazy times. Obviously, at the moment, both of us are in Melbourne, Australia, and we're in the midst of this lockdown situation. So maybe if you can share about what can we do in these crazy times that the world, pretty much most of the world, is experiencing at the moment.
Yeah, well, I've been on the journey with everyone, and I'm sure we've all been through highs and lows over the past while, and trying to figure out what do we do, what's going on, and who's to blame. And there's this tension as well that happens, and it's all really compounded by the fact that we can't even get close anymore. So one of my favorite things to do, and I'm sure it's one of yours too, is hugs and connection and that real platonic physical intimacy that we adore. We just can't even have that anymore. And it's and how do we find intimacy in this new age? So one of the things I've been doing is just looking at it from a perspective of, look, what do we know is certain? What are we uncertain about? And then at the end of the day, what can we control? And that's probably the most important bit in this age of chaos, and everything's changing at a million miles an hour, and things are happening at such a fast pace that we can barely keep up with what's happening, let alone be able to adjust around it. One of the things that's been good for me is just coming right back to center and going, okay, well, what is it that I can sort? Can I clean my room? Can I, get my business in further order and actually bring order amongst this chaos from starting from here and then working my way back out? Because for those who don't know, I have a number of businesses that I manage and have an really active involvement in. So it's been tricky trying to make all that work as well, and times are tight financially as well. It's not been easy on any of my businesses. I'm sure it's not been easy really on many people other than Jeff Bezos and the billionaires that are making lots of billions amongst our turmoil and suffering. But yeah, it's like, okay, can't really control any of that. It's changing so fast, it's not funny anyway. So start here, work my way out to my beloved partner and Nadine, and then the beautiful palace I live in, connecting with those people better and making that work, and even making the logistics of my living situation work better. That's what I'm doing. How about yourself, man?
Yeah, well, for me, it's let me feel. There's two things that come to mind. For me, it's like I think I'm feeling the pinch, and it's like it could be a few things. No, I mean, number one is healing. Like I feel there's a lot of trauma on the planet. Like there's a lot of trauma, and it depends what rabbit holes you go in. There's a lot of trauma, and I feel like I am processing that trauma for the planet. So I feel like there's the idea of like I want to see and know my own truth, and as I explore the truth on the planet, I'm actually healing myself to become to see the truth within me. So I feel like if I can't see the truth out there, I can't see the truth in me. That's number one. And the second thing that comes to mind is connection. Like I feel like connection is like a really like it's a need. It's one of those things like, you know, food, like food, oxygen. You know, we need it to survive. And I feel like with connection, more on a spiritual sort of journey, it's like connecting to our higher self. So doing those practices that we meditate maybe and like tune into that higher self, and that can guide us. But also having those connections like we are now, like on Zoom, and connecting with our tribe through Zoom, through, you know, video chats, I think is really important. Like we still need, because we can probably get those same endorphins just by having a video chat and sharing those emotions.
Yeah, absolutely, we can. I had that experience 2 nights ago, actually, where I had this is amazing dance that I support called Mojo Dance, and it's a great way to connect with people. I'm like, how the heck are we going to have a dance where you're meant to be all, you know, sometimes very, very intimately connected with one other person? How do you do that when you're not even in the same room? You know, I've struggled to just do dances in general because it just feels like I'm flailing about by myself, right? As fun as that is, and as important as it is to move, it wasn't really hitting that emotional aspect, but it really worked. And I think it's actually connected to the tools, ironically. If we get the tools right, as well as the context and the intention that we bring and the people that we bring to it, that it can actually be incredibly intimate. And I actually had a more intimate time the other night than I've had at previous events that have been in person. So very, very amazing experience there. And shout out to Jules and the Mojo Dance that she does. Incredible dance that she's going to be getting back off the ground now digitally, at least at first. And I just want to bounce off something else you said there around with the trauma. And yeah, it really highlights the existing trauma, because we're kind of faced with ourselves now. It's like, you know, in Australia, we're just being paid to be at home, a lot of us, and not work. And, you know, that makes you come face to face with yourself. And I've had some sleepless nights recently, and I normally have slept incredibly well for many, many years. And so to have those sleepless nights and be confronted with that stuff has been really, really eye-opening, and really a sense of growth for me as well. And you also said like that whole thing of it wasn't quite self-sufficiency, but it was something around, you know, looking after the food and the health of the self. So, you know, I've done a bit of that as well with setting up a little automatic garden, a Mr. Stacky garden, if you're curious about doing it yourself, hydroponics, solar panels, so just like constantly waters itself, and seeing those things growing food for the first time in my life, and then feeling a sense of self-sufficiency and sustainability of my own well-being, and creating that sort of farm to table or mini farm to table has been a great thing as well to experience. So yeah.
I love it. And yeah, that's awesome. And another thing I am becoming aware of, I don't really have an awesome like daily practice. I kind of get up, go for a jog, you know, like have my sort of biohacking drink, and then have, you know, have lunch and stuff. But I'm definitely keen on exploring like habits and rituals, like daily rituals, like specifically morning rituals. I feel like are the most potent. Like if I can spend 30 minutes or an hour just like really waking up and moving my body, you know, putting the nice nutrients in, and getting myself in that peak state, then I'm ready to like conquer the world. And I feel, and there's probably, we're going to talk about a lot of things like gut health and stuff like that. But for me, my rituals is just, like essential. And even though I do have my ritual at the moment is not, you know, like ultra powerful, it's enough to keep my mental, like brain, like not going too into the depression and getting too hijacked with the current fear.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We're living in this kind of topsy-turvy experience where, especially in Australia, you know, we can't do all these things that we were able to do before, yet we've got such an abundance of options and places to point our attention and get some dopamine hits, that it's like, how do you actually direct that? And one of the things I'm learning recently is that intentionality is the way that we get to fulfillment in a culture that's quite abundant. So because you can go anywhere and do anything. So it's about having that direction and that purpose, setting an intention for the year and all of that. And when it comes to ritual and habits, there's actually a really great podcast I did a while back now that I can link to in the comments below. And Cassia did a great great interview with me a while back, and we're actually due to do another interview at some point as well. So that's a good reminder. I should go follow her up about that. But there's some really great rituals that I do personally every day, and something that I've been building towards this year with my clients in my mentoring businesses is how do you create a process that is enjoyable, fun, and even gamified towards doing the things that we're committed to doing every day. So there's a great app called Habitica, which tracks all of what you're doing, and you choose the tasks that you're putting into this app, and you go on missions and stuff and kill bosses and stuff by doing these missions and doing these daily tasks. So that's been great.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, the last chat we had, it was about, like, we talked a lot about immunity, immunity health, like specifically gut health, and how we're both like looking at, you know, rebuilding our gut. And me personally, like, I've noticed, just quickly I'll share, like, a few months ago, maybe a couple of months ago, I was going through this depression stage, and I was like, what the hell's going on? I knew there's nothing in my life that made me depressed. Like, it was pretty, you know, I had an amazing partner, and like everything was like good out there, but like my state was absolutely like crap. And I was like, what? So then I went to a doctor and another person, and it was came down to my gut health. So and the last kind of couple of months I've been like, you know, almost instantly, as soon as I got the herbs in me, like I almost noticed instant like mood elevation. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea how linked, like for me personally, like how linked you, like that feeling of like going into that depression, sadness, and those thoughts come in, is linked to my gut. Like, so maybe we can.
So just some stuff around that. I mean, our gut has, I think it's more cells than a human body has. There's this variety of cells in our gut, and it's a whole biome, it's a whole ecosystem that they're only really starting to discover now, the impacts of gut health on the rest of the human body. And it's almost like a second brain, actually. So it's very important what we put in our guts. And I've been atrocious with this, you know, in my 20s. Absolutely. It was, McDonald's lunches every day and stuff. Like, it was tragic food that I was putting through me. So I've actually done some damage to my guts, and I'm in a process of healing that stuff over time, using some great stuff around like glutagenics. And I've actually been given a whole course of herbs that I haven't touched yet, that I'm keen to do very soon. But I do other things as well to manage that. So I've gone and measured my intolerances and figured out what I should definitely not be putting in my body, and what I should be, and what I can get away with every, now and then, for my diet. So I think it's quite important to look at that, at the very least, an intolerance test, because the first thing to do is start, mitigating the things that are doing us damage, and then go about actually repairing the gut and looking after ourselves that way. Of course, things like supplements, and an interesting supplement point, it actually really helps to do supplements at the end of a meal rather than at the start. So you put the food down there first, layer the supplements on top of it, and it works better for absorption into the body. So there's that. How about yourself, man? What about?
One thing, like what a partner shared with me is like vitamin D. I think it's vitamin D is for immunity, and with the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, I've read a lot of places that that the vitamin D does. I mean, look, when it comes to this whole COVID thing, no one knows what the heck's really truly going on, and I'm not a scientist in any way. But I've seen a bunch of information coming out around the impact. Look at when people die to COVID, how much vitamin D levels they have, and apparently there's much less vitamin D in people who do unfortunately succumb to COVID, and it can also be part of the link for old people. I mean, obviously older people are going to be more immunocompromised in the first place, but there are also a lot of them just sitting indoors and not getting that vitamin D. And being a gamer, I don't get a lot of vitamin D, so it helps to just even go for a walk. Interesting thing about that is that A lot of the vitamins and the goodness that comes from sunlight only comes from direct sunlight. So if it passes through a window, it won't actually absorb. You won't get the right sort of chemicals coming through, or you definitely won't get the maximum impact from being outdoors and actually receiving the sunlight that way.
Yeah, yeah. And I heard of the when they were doing experiment, I think 20, 30 years ago, they were doing these experiments on vitamin D, and they were doing them outdoors, and people were getting the vitamins, and then they decided to make the experiments indoors, and it was behind glass, and the benefits they noticed it was changing, but they didn't realize that the glass had an effect. But yeah.
Yeah, and I see obviously you can supplement it with vitamin D, but that reminds me of a book called the Depression Cure, and it's a bold name for a book, but they have measured this, and this guy has, you can look up the book and watch his TED talk, see this guy. It's phenomenal that information is not out there, especially with the amount of depression going out around at the moment. And he covers these 6 different things that we can do to measurably, I think something like 80% success rate on curing depression by people having these lifestyle changes. So he calls them therapeutic lifestyle changes, and they include the vitamin D, fish oil, diet, exercise, social connections, and I think it was self-talk. But yeah, have a look at the book, and it's like compared to for an antidepressant to become put on the market, like to be seen as being working, all it needs to do is beat a placebo. So some of the depression fixes that they have out there, 24% is the average rate on a placebo for somebody being cured of depression, and some of these antidepressant medications are like 26% success rate, and that's not factoring in all of the other damage that they do to the body. So yeah, lifestyle is definitely the place to go to first. And I get it. It's so hard to make those lifestyle changes when we're in the midst of the depression itself. And I've been in pretty big low points as well over the last few months and trying to figure it out and going, I've got the relationship of my dreams. How can that be the case? And fair enough, I've got a bunch of financial pressures and things like that. But it was interesting to feel that once I made those lifestyle choices and changes, it's made a huge difference for my quality of life. Could we start with what are our purposes? I'm happy to start with mine, and that gets everyone connected to who we are a bit more, because we might have people watching that or either know us and they haven't really gotten to know us or don't know us at all. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Would you like to start?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, my purpose in life is, I think, to be of service, and specifically it's it is kind of revealed to me when I meditate, do deep meditation practice, or go on these sort of deep journeys. It's revealed to me. It's more of a giving, but it's also comedy. There is a bit of, I think, in who I am, there's a bit of like a comical element to awakening. Yeah. So for me, it's like healing and doing my work, but revealing that in a comedy sense. I mean, it's not in these videos. I'm not very funny, but one idea is to use comedy. It's kind of like JPCs. Use comedy as a tool for transcendence and consciousness and evolution, and it kind of goes a bit under the radar. And the other thing is just to be of value and of service to the planet, and almost for me, my purpose is to be clear. So clear my body, to be a clear vessel for something higher than me that's coming through me. That is, it's almost like let me change to it. Yeah, for me, my purpose is just to be myself, I am, to awaken I am and be living that. And in every day and every moment, that I express that I amness. So for me, my purpose is to continually be a clean vessel, and then express that on the planet. It sounds a bit vague, but it's kind of doing the work within, the spiritual healing, the work, And the deeper I go, the more clarity I get as to what I need to do out on the planet. And at the moment, it's, comedy videos and maybe educational content videos. In the future, I'll have to do a documentary on something. I'm not sure what, but do a documentary. But yeah, for me, it's about like transformation, heart intelligence, connecting to the higher self. What else? Yeah. And what about yourself, Elphie?
Great. I mean, it's interesting. I did 8 years of meditation, and the most I got out of it was that we are all are we, and so that basically is like it's an expansion of I am, right? So because the I am can't be recognized without the other, right? Otherwise, we're all source and we're all everything. So there is no real I am without you, right? Or at least a not I am to recognize the I amness, right? So it straight away includes a second. So that's why that we are, I believe, has come to me, that we are all, and all of us are each other. So that's the we are all are we. But my purpose can be summed up as being to synergize freedom and responsibility into meaning through dancing with the moment in both ecstasis and in catharsis, whilst building keystone performance habits towards our best vision, and integrating our past and preparing for the worst through total self-sustainability.
Wow.
So there's a lot of words there, right? But yeah, that's the way that I keep myself focused on in everything that I'm doing. Is it fitting into one of those areas? So there's a lot of things that I can do with that, and freedom used to be my number one value for the last decade. And it was only through reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning that I recognized that equally as important in finding meaning is to have that freedom, but with the responsibility to go and do something with that freedom, right? It's so important. And so, that's what's caused a shift in me as well, because I was always about, try and become financially free and do whatever I want and follow. And what that ended up doing is it ended up putting me on a path of hedonistic nihilism almost, right? Like it was parties, women, video games, all the time, that I should always be in a state of basically high dopamine and peak experience, right? But that doesn't recognize the lows as well. So yeah, it's that synergizing of freedom and responsibility into meaning. If I was to pick one bit, that would be
I love it. It's so epic. I love the meaning through dancing in the moment, and we both enjoy ecstatic dance. So also, like, I enjoyed, like, last time we spoke about if one believed in past lives, what would that look like? What's this experience in like this experience we're having in this lifetime? How does that correlate to all the other lifetimes if we believe in past lives and whatever? Like, in the grand scheme of the whole construction of reality and us coming to this planet and having this experience, how do you see this lifetime being played out? What's the...
Well, I did mention on the last call that I'm far more like in the now than the previous lifetimes, but that's part of integrating the past, is part of my vision, right? And I have done like these massive vision quests with world-renowned people that cost me thousands of dollars to spend a day to look at my past lives, or my alleged past lives. But I do love the fact that it gets us to think a bit more meta and step back from our own personal experience that we're so attached to, and think about there might have been something that was us before, right? So what was the question around that?
Like how do you see pretty much more of that, like how do we see us coming into this life, having this experience? Like if you zoom back, like how do you see all the lifetimes being played out? How does it relate to this experience right now? How do you see that being played out? What's the relationship of this experience and what's going on in the planet at the moment with this whole
well, I mean, we build upon the shoulders of giants, like the lifetimes that came before us, and the people that have built us up when we weren't our own selves and didn't really have an identity of our own as we were becoming that. It's all critical. And that, you know, if we forget the past completely, then we miss resolving trauma and working things through that might be real sticking points that we don't know about ourselves. So I think it is critical to go at least look back there and at least go, okay, what is there? And it was there some past lives, and what could that mean for us today? So I think, yeah, it's about, like, for me, it's about just collating as much of that as possible, getting a full snapshot, and digging into the detail that we need to then know that it's all led to who we are right now in the eternal now, right? And it does give way to what we have later on, and what we're building towards in the future. So yeah, I think it's important. I personally feel that there's more important things to focus on, though, like, and even just being of service to other people. People are suffering right now, and, you know, even if suffering is just all made up in the mind, which is a strong belief of mine, no matter how bad things get, that suffering is a matter of perspective. There are people who have some of the most, from an external perspective, some of the most messed up lives, and yet they are happy and fulfilled. And we could just see that and be like, oh, well, they're just deluded. But, you know, talk to them, and even myself, you know, my situation is not that different from where it was 2 months ago. And 2 months ago I was like pretty resigned and critical about things. And so yeah, it's almost like the suffering gives the meaning as well, right? The suffering gives purpose, and gives us something to strive for. To I don't know if it's whether it's to suffer less, and maybe the job is to just bear our cross. I think there is something there, though, around reducing suffering in the world, though, too. So there's a couple of points there that are like juicy topics we could go into another time, around suffering. I like that. Maybe we should take that up as a conversation for next time. But hopefully, I've given something there in all of that might answer your question there.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And one thing that came to mind is I believe there's, you know, billionaires out there who have this feeling of I am not enough, and are striving to become enough and to make enough. Yet
they're driven,
people,
right? Yet they're driven to make things happen.
Abundant as anything. So it's like, okay, the homeless person is abundant, yet the billionaire is poor because he feels like he's not enough, and he's, you know, trying to.
And yet the homeless person who's abundant is not really doing much to help other people necessarily feel abundant. They might be having great conversations and doing those things, but I do believe that as we achieve material success, it allows us to have a greater influence on the world, for good or for bad. And so that's important. So it's about balancing the spirit with the ego, right? And that the ego does drive, and it comes from a space of lack and wanting to be better than, but they're real things in our body. Like the serotonin system that recognizes social statuses and makes us feel better is a real thing. And if we ignore that and we go, no, we can all just be happy, la la la, and we don't have these real judgments that we really do have, that we might be hiding from ourselves and being altruistic and what have you. I think it's unwise to ignore those things, and that it is important to have recognition and to work hard at something and be acknowledged for that, even over somebody who hasn't worked hard and not achieved that. So yeah, I think that the truth is, as it always is, somewhere in the middle. It's closer to that.
Awesome. Working with trauma, like I feel like working with trauma, and both of us are into ecstatic dance, and maybe we can just touch on, like, I'm curious to find out, like, what, like with ecstatic dance, like what's like for me, it's like we're like getting to that place of inner peace, and I connect with inner bliss, and there's a connection. So I call it my higher self, and through that I have guidance to what I want to do with my life, especially when I'm feeling really depressed. If I do dance, it kind of like almost washes that away, connects to my higher self, and gets me clarity in life, in what I want to do. Like, what happens to you with ecstatic dance, and what's the draw or the pull?
For me, it's allowing whatever to arise, and getting movement into my body. It feels good. I feel like one of the things that got me into ecstatic dance in the first place was that good vibe and that feeling, and obviously, and especially connecting with other people as well. I love engaging in dance with other people and seeing what's there. You know, it could just be a couple of mates just just there witnessing each other and being there with each other. It could be the sexiest dance you've ever had. Like for me, I have a lot of different reasons why I end up dancing, but yeah, I think more recently it has been from a space of catharsis. I think it also could be very much linked to the fact that I'm not dancing anywhere near as much as I used to. I used to do it 3 times a week, and now I'd be lucky if I did it 3 times a month. So yeah, it's been more recently about catharsis and release and letting all the tension go in the body, you know, because I don't get my weekly massages anymore. But you know, it's yeah, it's important. It's important to keep that body moving. We were made to move.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you get clarity in your life? Like, you know, like sometimes you have like,
yeah, I have
down
definite
points and
moments
like
of
life is just like, you want to just like give everything up. Do you feel like in that moment, like, it's like, okay, I understand who I am, why I'm here, and there's a new
I think more than that, it actually for me lets me go, it doesn't actually really matter. Like it matters for the moment while we allow it to matter and while we determine it to matter, and we do that for most of the time. So that, you know, unless you got totally, and then anyway, you know, for me it's about like, well, it doesn't matter, I'm just here and having a dance, and at the end of the day I can have fun with that, and no matter what's going wrong in my life and what pain I've been recently going through or what have you, it's okay. And it's great. I can appreciate and enjoy what is now and let everything go.
Awesome. Oh, it's really amazing, Elphie. I really enjoy getting into your model of the world and you know, doing these videos.
Awesome. Yeah, and likewise, and I think it really is going to form a great launching point for us as well. We've both been talking about, you know, getting back into connecting socially and creating rather than consuming all the time. So this has been a great sort of restart to our you know, digitally connected worlds, and we'd love to hear from you guys, either personally, if you just want to PM us instead, that's fine, or comment and say, look, you liking the content? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to hear more of? We both just want to be of service. This is as much for you guys as it is a beautiful creative expression for us. So we love you both all. We love you, the one person who might be watching this, or the 100 people who might be watching this at this moment, and would love to hear from you all, and look forward to connecting soon. And even, you know, if you have a movement or just want to express yourself, perhaps we could have a you know, do an interview with you, if you want to put your name forward for that and say hi. We'd love to hear from you, connect with you, and create some more joy in the world.
Yeah, I love it. And I feel like we're all in this together, and yeah, if anyone's got questions, like, feel free to, or any you know, like things that they can share about, you know, like their experiences, like, yeah, definitely comment and I'll see if I can get in there and respond. I love it. Awesome, Elphie.
So until next time, good sir, and thank you everyone. Take care.